I didn't reply to the message immediately. I needed to think. Here I was fuming over my husband's affair, and at the same time, I was wrapped up in my own secret mess with his father. I stared at the phone screen trying to decide how to respond, but I just sat there gripping Adam's phone tightly, my mind racing. Adam returned from the bathroom drying his hands on a towel, completely unaware of the storm brewing in my head. Are you okay, babe? He asked me casually, not even looking at me as he picked up his phone from the bed. I faked a smile, forcing the words out. Yes, I'm fine. I'm just thinking about what you said earlier about the allowance, I said to him. He glanced at me briefly and frowned, still scrolling through his phone. We'll talk about it later. I told you I'll think about it, he said to me. I looked at him, biting my lips to keep them from exploding. How could he act so nonchalant after sending millions to some other woman, yet couldn't give me any money? I couldn't afford to react, not yet. Adam finally put down his phone and stretched. I am going to sleep. I have an early meeting tomorrow, he said to me, already making his way to the bed. I lay down close to him, but my mind was still racing, and sleep was the last thing on my mind. I grabbed my phone and read the message again, the one from my father-in-law. He had been texting me non-stop since last night. I have still not recovered from the maid's knock when I was in his room the last time. I hadn't processed my feelings just yet, but now seeing Adam's betrayal, everything felt different. I looked at the message again. When am I seeing you? The temptation to reply was overwhelming. I knew I could use this to my advantage. My father-in-law was obsessed with me, and I could feel his desire growing stronger every time we were together. But I had to be smart. I wasn't going to rush into anything without a plan. And just then, my phone buzzed again. Another text message from my father-in-law. I need to see you tonight, Tina. Meet me in my study. It is important. I stared at the message, my mind spinning. What could be so urgent that he needed to see me this late at night? I was curious. I decided to go. I needed answers about him, about Adam, about everything. I was already confused. I slipped out of the room quietly, making sure Adam was asleep before I tiptoed down the hall. The mansion was really quiet, the only sound being my footstep on the tiled floor. My heart pounded in my chest as I made my way to my father-in-law's study, making sure nobody saw me. As I approached his door, I hesitated for a second. What was I doing? I asked myself. The image of Adam's phone and the message flashed in my mind again, fueling my resolve. I couldn't back down now, not after everything Adam has done to me. I opened the door and stepped inside, softly closing the door behind me. My father-in-law was already waiting for me, sitting on the edge of his bed, a satisfied look on his face. You came, he said in a low voice, his eyes gleaming with approval. I needed to get out of that room, I whispered, trying to steady my breathing. I just found something about Adam, and I'm really, really sad. He stood up, walking towards me with a concerned expression on his face, but his hand rested on my shoulder a little too long. What is wrong, my dear? He asked me softly. I shook my head, not wanting to get into it yet. Can we just talk? I looked at him. I just needed to get away from Adam for a little while, I said to my father-in-law. My father-in-law nodded and we sat down together. He listened as I briefly explained what I had seen on Adam's phone. His face remained calm, but I could sense his anger simmering beneath the surface. Adam is a fool, my father-in-law said, his voice really firm. He doesn't know what he has. I nodded, trying to fight the emotion swirling inside me. I can't believe he would do this to me, I said. My father-in-law leaned closer. My dear, you deserve better. You deserve somebody who truly appreciates you, he said to me. My father-in-law's hand lingered on my knee, and for a brief moment I decided to pull away. Part of me wanted to feel desired, wanted to feel something other than the pain Adam had caused me, but it was too risky. I was unhappy and vulnerable. I started to feel uneasy, so I stood up to leave before Adam notices my absence. My father-in-law held me back and asked me to stay a little more, but I declined. I quickly opened the door, just a crack peeking out to see if the hallway was silent, and nobody was out there. I breathed a small sign of relief, trying to sneak out unnoticed, but just as I slipped out of the room and started walking down the hallway, I heard a voice. Tina. I froze, my blood turning into ice. It was Adam's voice, or was I mistaken? I slowly turned back, my heart pounding in my ears. And there he was, Adam. Adam stood at the other end of the hallway, his eyes narrowing as he looked at me in disbelief, his face twisted with anger and confusion, and then suspicion. What are you doing coming out of my father's room? He said in a low voice, but really angry. I could hear the anger bubbling beneath the surface. I opened my mouth, but no words came out. My mind raced for an excuse, something that could explain why I was leaving his father's room in the middle of the night. But nothing sounded convincing. Answer me, Adam said, his voice louder now, even more demanding. He took a step closer, his face twisted with anger. And just then, my father-in-law stepped into the hallway behind me, his presence adding fuel to the fire. Adam's eyes looking at the both of us, the realization slowly dawning on him. This isn't what it looked like, I stammered, knowing fully well that is exactly what it looked like. Adam's face hardened, his jaw clenching in anger. Then what is it, Tina? What the hell are you doing, sneaking out of my father's room in the middle of the night? Adam shouted. I was trapped between the truth and the lies. It was like the whole mansion should crash on me at that moment. Adam's gaze was demanding an explanation I couldn't even give. My father-in-law stayed silent, watching the scene unfold without offering a single word. Just as I thought things couldn't get any worse, we heard the sound of footsteps coming down the hallway again, this time even much faster. My heart sank as I realized who it might be. Adam's mother rounded the corner, her eyes widening as she took in the sight of the three of us standing in the hallway. Her hand flew to her mouth in shock. What is going on here? She whispered, her voice trembling. What do you think happened next? Please like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so when I post the next episode, you will be among the first to watch. Thank you and remain blessed.